The sky was never meant to look like that. Across the world, people stopped what they were doing when the black shapes appeared above the clouds. The ships were so big that they swallowed the sun, casting shadows over entire cities. Children pointed, adults stared, and the old felt their hearts grow heavy. For thousands of years, humans had looked up at the stars and wondered who might live out there. Now they knew the aliens did not arrive as friends. They did not send greetings. They came with voices that carried across every device on Earth. Televisions, radios, phones, even the smallest speakers in forgotten villages. The voice was deep and cold, as if it came from something that did not know how to smile. "People of Earth," the voice said, "you will kneel." Every language heard it. Every country understood the meaning. The message was simple: submit or die. Crowds filled the streets in London, New York, Beijing, Karachi, Lagos. The sound of the alien voice shook through them like thunder. No one had asked for this. No one had been prepared. Humanity had fought wars with itself, but this was different. This was something from beyond the stars. The ships hovered above oceans, deserts, and mountains. Some looked like floating fortresses, others like giant spears pointed downward. They had no flags, no signs of weakness. They glowed with strange light, alive with energy far beyond human science. In secret bunkers, leaders of nations gathered. Screens showed their pale faces. Generals shouted for calm. Scientists whispered about technology they could not understand, and presidents and kings looked at each other in silence. The aliens had not asked for peace talks. They had not asked for trade. They had not even fired a weapon yet. They had only demanded one thing: submission. The world was waiting for one voice to answer. In a chamber deep beneath Geneva, the United Earth Council was called to session. Representatives from across the planet sat around a long table. They could feel the weight of billions of lives on their shoulders. Every word spoken in that room would shape the future of the human race. The alien transmission appeared again, this time as a shimmering figure in the air. It was tall, armored in black metal that seemed to move like liquid. Its face was hidden behind a mask of steel, glowing eyes staring down at the humans like they were insects. "You will kneel," the alien said again. "Your species will obey. Resist and your world burns." The chamber fell silent. No one wanted to speak first. Some lowered their eyes. Others clenched their fists. A few trembled in fear. For long moments, only the hum of the alien projection filled the air. Outside, across every continent, billions of humans waited. Families huddled together in homes, soldiers stood ready at bases, and children clung to their parents. The whole world was holding its breath. The alien raised its hand. Energy crackled in its palm, as if to remind humanity of its power. "Kneel," it said again. Something stirred then. Not in the machines, not in the weapons, but in the people themselves. Humanity had been beaten down before. Empires had tried to crush them. Tyrants had demanded obedience. And yet, across centuries of blood and fire, one thing had remained. Humans did not kneel forever. One of the council members, an older man with tired eyes, leaned forward. His voice was calm, but it carried strength. "And if we refuse?" The alien tilted its head. "Then you die." The words were cold, final, certain. There was no room for negotiation, no room for mercy. In that moment, the choice became clear. Humanity could kneel and live as slaves, or they could stand and risk everything. The weight of the decision pressed down on every soul alive. But something strange happened. In homes, in streets, in shelters and bunkers, people began to smile. A quiet laugh escaped somewhere in a crowd. Then another, then another. It spread like fire, soft at first, then louder until it echoed through cities. People were laughing. They laughed not because they thought it was funny, but because they understood. For all the power the aliens held, they had made a mistake. They thought humans would bow at the first threat. They thought fear was stronger than pride. They did not know Earth. They did not know humanity. The alien projection flickered as the sound of laughter rose. The commander did not understand. In their world, fear always meant obedience. But here on Earth, fear often led to defiance. The old man at the council smiled faintly. He did not kneel. None of them did. The alien's glowing eyes narrowed. "This is not a game. Kneel." The chamber filled with silence again, but this silence was different. It was not the silence of fear. It was the silence before a storm. For the first time in history, every human heart beat in unison, not for a country or a flag, but for survival and for pride. The demand had been made, the threat had been spoken, but humanity was not yet broken. The world held its breath. The alien repeated one last time, voice shaking the walls. "Kneel," and then the human representative leaned forward. His eyes burned with something ancient, something no alien could understand. He opened his mouth to speak. The first answer of humanity was about to be given. The laughter. The chamber in Geneva was still heavy with silence. The alien projection stood tall, eyes burning like two pieces of fire, waiting for submission. Across the planet, billions of humans leaned closer to their screens, expecting to see their leaders fall to their knees. But instead, something small and strange began to ripple through the air. A laugh. It was soft at first, almost nervous, the kind of sound that might have been a mistake. Yet the alien paused, tilting its head, confused by the noise. Humans laughed in many ways, but this sound was not of fear. It was the laugh of disbelief, of mockery. And it did not stop. Another laugh followed, then another. It spread like sparks catching dry grass. In the council chamber, one representative pressed his hand to his mouth, but could not hide the grin spreading across his face. The tension broke. Laughter rolled out in waves, deep and loud, shaking the air. The alien's eyes narrowed. "You dare mock us?" No one answered at first. The laughter only grew. Soldiers in their bases, children in crowded schools, old women watching small televisions, they all felt the same rising energy. The fear that had frozen them began to break apart. For the first time since the ships had filled the skies, humanity was not trembling. Humanity was laughing. The alien projection raised its voice, booming through the walls. "We are the Tharkesh Dominion. We have crushed empires older than your world. We will erase your name from the stars." Still they laughed. Some pounded the table, some wiped tears from their eyes. The more the alien shouted, the funnier it became. To demand kneeling, to speak of slavery, to believe humans would surrender so easily. It was absurd. For centuries, humans had been told to kneel by kings, tyrants, and invaders. Some had bent, but always others had stood. Entire nations had burned before they would bow. And now, the whole world remembered. One council member finally spoke, voice steady but dripping with amusement. "You ask us to kneel? After everything we have survived? You truly do not know us," the alien hissed. The projection flared brighter, as though rage itself burned through the air. "You mock what you do not understand. Your laughter is weakness, but to the humans, the truth was different. Their laughter was strength. Laughter meant they had not been broken. Laughter meant they would not give in. It was the oldest weapon humanity had. Defiance wrapped in humor, a refusal to take the enemy's threats seriously. Outside, crowds cheered. People lifted their voices, mocking the ships that hovered above. Some shouted insults into the sky. Others made jokes about the aliens' towering armor and glowing eyes. It was reckless. It was bold. It was human. The alien commander, watching from his flagship above the clouds, did not understand. To him, fear was order. Silence was control. But here, the more power he showed, the louder the humans laughed. His claws dug into the metal of his command chair. "They should be begging," he growled to his officers. "They should be crying for mercy." Yet the transmission screens showed humans smiling, clapping, laughing in the streets as if the sky was not filled with death. In the Geneva chamber, the laughter slowed, but the defiance in every human eye remained. The older man who had first spoken leaned forward again, his voice steady as stone. "You want us to kneel? We will give you our answer." The alien tilted its head. "At last, speak." The man's lips curved into a faint smile. "No." That single word echoed louder than cannons. It crossed the world in seconds, reaching every ear. People cheered, shouted, clapped. Humanity had spoken with one voice, and that voice had chosen defiance. The aliens' projection shook with fury. "Then you will be destroyed!" But the humans did not tremble. They did not beg. Instead, the old man leaned back, his eyes never leaving the glowing figure. "Try us." The alien disappeared in a flash of light, ending the transmission. Silence fell in the chamber, but this time it was not the silence of fear. It was the silence of people who had crossed a line from which there was no return. Above Earth, the alien fleet shifted. Weapons began to glow, energy building in massive cannons. The Tharkesh Dominion had given its warning, and now it would strike. But on the ground, the humans stood tall. They had laughed at death itself, and now they prepared to fight it. The first battle of Earth was about to begin. The first blow, the night sky burned. Over the Pacific Ocean, one of the alien warships lowered itself until waves rose high against its shadow. The ship was a mountain of black steel, glowing with streams of white fire that coiled around its weapons. With a single command, it fired. The beam tore across the sea like a blade, boiling water into steam. It cut through islands as if they were paper. Within seconds, cities were reduced to silence and smoke. Screens across the world showed the destruction. The message was clear. The Tharkesh were not bluffing. Billions watched in horror. Families pressed closer together. Soldiers gripped their weapons with shaking hands. For a moment, humanity seemed so small, so fragile under the burning sky. But then something shifted. The fear did not last. It hardened into anger. In New York, when the skyline lit red with reflected fire, crowds did not scatter. They shouted at the sky. In villages across Africa and Asia, people beat drums and sang war songs that had carried their ancestors through darker times. In Europe, church bells rang not in mourning, but as calls to gather. Humanity's spirit was waking. In Geneva, the council chamber shook as news poured in. The islands are gone. Casualties are high. The fleet is advancing, yet no one rose to surrender. The old man at the table stood tall. "Then let them see what happens when they strike first." Across the planet, armies moved. Jets screamed into the sky. Submarines surfaced from the depths. Missiles lit the darkness. Humanity was answering the first blow. The alien fleet expected resistance, but not like this. They had conquered dozens of worlds before, and on each, fear had silenced the defenders. Here on Earth, defiance rang louder than their weapons. In the deserts of North Africa, tanks rolled into formation, cannons turning upward. In South America, guerrilla fighters, who had once hidden in jungles, now aimed their weapons at the sky. In Asia, massive rockets roared from hidden launch pads. Every nation, every people, united in a way no human war had ever allowed. The first human missiles struck. Against the alien shields, they seemed to do nothing. Explosions blossomed harmlessly in the sky. The Tharkesh commanders laughed inside their ships, certain the battle was already won. But the humans were not finished. In a secret base under the mountains, engineers worked without rest. For decades, humanity had dreamed of space travel, of weapons that might one day defend them among the stars. Those dreams had been half-built, incomplete, until now. Now, with the world united, every scrap of knowledge and science was poured into a single purpose: survival. When the first prototype weapon fired, the sky cracked. A beam of human-made energy, unstable and wild, shot upward. It struck the shields of a warship. For a heartbeat, the alien defenses flared, and then failed. The ship shuddered. Panels of steel ripped free. Flames erupted across its hull. The world roared with joy. In his flagship, the alien commander rose from his chair. "Impossible!" His voice shook with rage. "Primitive tools cannot break Tharkesh shields, but humans were never just about tools. They were about ideas. They were about refusing to lose. And now, their laughter turned to fire. Resistance fighters hacked into alien signals, turning their own communications against them. Farmers in remote villages dug pits and traps, knowing alien ground patrols might land. Hackers flooded networks, breaking codes, stealing knowledge. Every corner of Earth fought in its own way. The aliens responded with fury. More cities burned. Ships rained destruction. But for every place they crushed, two more rose in rebellion. The Dominion had walked into something they had never seen before, a species that would rather laugh at death than kneel to it. On the front lines, soldiers watched as a crippled alien ship crashed into the ocean, split apart by human defiance. Cheers echoed across radios. In Geneva, the council members listened to the reports. "We downed one," said a general, his voice trembling with pride. "We made them bleed," the old man nodded. His eyes carried both sorrow for the dead and steel for the living. "Then we will make them bleed again." The first blow had been struck by the aliens with fire and destruction. But humanity had answered with a strike of its own. Small, compared to the power of the Dominion, yet loud enough to shake their pride. Above Earth, the alien commander stared down at the blue planet. For the first time, he felt something he had not known in centuries. Not anger, not power, but doubt. If this was how humans answered the first blow, what would they do next? The battle was only beginning, turning the tide. The smoke of burning cities still rose into the sky, but humanity had not broken. The first alien ship had fallen into the sea, and that single victory became a spark. The spark spread across the world, across every battlefield, across every heart. Humanity had learned something important. The Tharkesh could bleed. The alien fleet rained fire from the heavens. More cities fell. Yet in the ruins, survivors picked up weapons. Soldiers stood shoulder to shoulder with civilians. Entire villages refused to evacuate, choosing instead to fight on their own land. Humanity was not fighting as separate nations now. It was fighting as one. In hidden labs deep underground, human scientists studied broken pieces of alien wreckage. Panels of black steel, fragments of glowing engines, even scraps of alien weapons. Each piece was rushed into hands that worked without sleep. What once would have taken decades of research now took days. With the world united, every mind was focused on a single goal: use their weapons against them. In one base beneath the Rockies, a group of engineers connected alien power cells to human missiles. The weapons shook, unstable, dangerous, but when they were fired, they tore holes through alien shields like knives through cloth. The soldiers watching shouted in disbelief. They had found a way to hurt the giants. In Asia, hackers used alien communication signals to slip into their systems. Screens across alien ships flickered with human laughter, human music, even images of Earth's history, soldiers charging against impossible odds, revolutions rising from the ashes, defiance carved into every age. The aliens snarled in rage, but their own networks were no longer safe. The Tharkesh commander grew restless. He had expected fear, silence, surrender. Instead, he was watching chaos spread through his fleet. He looked at the blue planet below and saw not prey, but something far worse, something unpredictable. On the ground, battles shifted. In the deserts of the Middle East, human tanks fought under alien fire. At first, their shells bounced uselessly against enemy armor. Then a single modified cannon, fueled by alien energy cells, fired. The blast ripped through a Tharkesh walker, sending the giant machine crashing into the sand. Cheers erupted across the radio. In the skies above Europe, fighter jets danced like insects against alien craft. Pilots should have been no match for ships that moved with impossible speed. Yet the humans did not fight fair. They tricked the alien sensors with flares, hid behind clouds, and used teamwork that machines could not predict. One squadron lured a warship into a trap, guiding it straight into a volley of missiles that had been waiting in silence. When the ship exploded, fire lit the night, and cities cheered as though the stars themselves had come alive. The laughter of defiance had turned into something else now. It had turned into strategy, into creativity, into victory. From orbit, the Tharkesh commander issued new orders. Crush them, burn their capitals, show them no mercy. And yet, even as more destruction rained down, Earth's answer did not change. Humans did not kneel. They fought harder. In Geneva, the council chamber was alive with reports. Commanders shouted about new victories, scientists explained stolen technology, and leaders of every nation stood united. For the first time in history, there were no borders between them. The planet itself had become one nation, humanity. The old man at the council table listened to the noise, then raised his voice. The room fell silent. "They wanted us on our knees," he said. "Instead, they have forced us to stand. Remember this day, the day Earth became one." His words spread across the airwaves. In every city, in every bunker, in every corner of the planet, people heard him. They carried those words into battle. Above, the alien commander slammed his clawed hand against his chair. Why will they not break? His officers whispered of something they had never seen before. Fear not from humans, but from themselves. The Tharkesh had conquered worlds with ease, but none had ever fought like this. None had ever laughed in the face of destruction. The humans were winning small battles, but more importantly, they were changing the war itself. Then came the moment that shifted everything. In orbit, a human-built rocket carrying stolen alien tech ignited. Its engine screamed as it left the atmosphere. At its tip was a weapon no alien expected, a fusion of Earth's desperation and Tharkesh power. The rocket pierced the void and slammed into one of the largest alien warships. The explosion lit the night like a second sun. Entire coastlines saw it. The great ship broke apart, flames spilling into the stars. Humanity had destroyed one of the Dominion's pride vessels. The galaxy would hear of it. In the alien commander's eyes, the first spark of doubt grew into something larger. If humans could bring down a warship in days, what would they achieve in months? And still, from the ruins of their burning cities, humans mocked the sky. They shouted insults, they sang, they laughed. It was madness. It was strength. It was something the Tharkesh could not understand. The tide had begun to turn. The final word. The night sky above Earth glowed with fire. Great alien warships drifted like broken husks, their once proud hulls torn open, their weapons silenced. Some still floated in orbit, their lights dim, while others fell toward the oceans in burning trails. Humanity had never seen such sights before, but neither had the Tharkesh. For the first time in their long history of conquest, the Dominion had met prey that did not kneel. On the ground, survivors crawled from ruined cities. They looked up not with fear but with pride. The scars of battle were everywhere. Shattered streets, burned forests, rivers turned black with smoke. Yet even here, where destruction was greatest, people smiled. They had endured the first storm. They were still standing. In bunkers and bases, human scientists worked feverishly with captured alien tech. What had begun as desperation had become power. Shields once thought invincible now cracked under human weapons. Alien communications that once spread terror now carried human voices. Every hour, the gap between Earth and the stars narrowed. The Tharkesh commander paced inside his flagship. His claws clicked against the steel floor. Around him, his officers stared in silence, afraid to speak. Entire wings of the fleet were gone. The Dominion's pride had been shattered. He looked out the viewport at the blue planet below. The humans had mocked him. They had laughed at his threats. And now they had struck him harder than any empire before. They should be dust, he growled. Why do they still rise? No one answered. The silence told him what he already knew. This war was slipping away. On Earth, in the Geneva chamber, the leaders of humanity gathered again. They were tired, wounded, many carrying grief for the countless dead. But their eyes burned brighter than before. They no longer spoke as leaders of nations. They spoke as one voice for one world. The old man stood once more. His voice was steady, carrying through the chamber and across every broadcast. Still alive on Earth, they came to break us. They demanded our surrender. They demanded we kneel. He paused, letting the words sink into every ear. But humanity does not kneel. His words were translated into 100 tongues. They echoed in ruined streets, in crowded shelters, in the hearts of soldiers on the front lines. People cheered. People cried. The phrase spread like fire, turning into a single chant across the world. We do not kneel. The alien commander heard it too. Human signals hacked into his ship, filling every screen with images of crowds shouting the same words. Children, elders, soldiers, farmers, all with the same fire in their eyes. "We do not kneel." The commander's fury boiled, but beneath it a new feeling grew: fear. If these humans survived, if they rebuilt, what would they become? A species that mocked death, that turned laughter into weapons, that refused to bow? What place would such a race carve in the galaxy? The order was given to retreat, not because the Tharkesh could not kill more, but because they had already lost something far greater, their aura of power. To stay longer was to invite more shame, more defeat. One by one, the great warships pulled away, their engines burning bright as they vanished into the dark. Humanity watched them go, not as slaves spared by mercy, but as victors who had stood unbroken. The war was not over. The galaxy was wide, and the Tharkesh would return one day. But the first battle was finished, and its story would travel farther than any fleet. Across distant stars, whispers would begin. There was a world called Earth. Its people were strange. Its people were dangerous. Its people laughed in the face of doom. When the skies finally cleared, the people of Earth stepped into the light of dawn. The cities were scarred, the losses heavy, but hope burned brighter than ever before. Children drew pictures of falling alien ships. Soldiers carved the words, "We do not kneel," onto walls. Entire nations sang the same songs of defiance. Humanity had been tested by the stars, and it had answered with fire and with laughter. In the Geneva chamber, the old man looked at the surviving leaders. His voice was quiet now, but every word carried weight. "This is only the beginning. The galaxy will come for us again, but when they do, they will remember today. They will remember that Earth stood tall, and somewhere deep in the silence of space, the fleeing Tharkesh carried their own message, a warning to every empire and every species. Beware the humans. They do not kneel.